Snare drum. So here I have my pearl Sensitone snare. It's an all birch shell. I like it a lot. I mic it up with two mics, an SM57 on the top, and a Sennheiser E604 on the bottom. I keep the top mic about 3 fingers height from the snare head, and I keep it somewhere between, pointing between the center of the head and the outer edge. The center is going to give you the most attack. The outer edge is going to give you the overtones. So if you aim the mic somewhere between those 2 points, you can get a nice balanced sound. I find it works for a variety of styles with a variety of snare drums, and it's a good starting point. Okay, now that we're back in Logic, let's try to do some snare processing. So I want the majority of the snare sound to come from the overheads. So I have phase aligned them. So they were just 22 samples off from each other, between one on the hi-hat and one on the ride. So we just have a little bit more low end and body this way when things are in phase. So let's just hear the overheads. So there's a lot of snare in there, and that's good snare. So let's add the rooms and see how our picture is unfolding. Cool. So we have a little bit of excitement, a little bit of body on the snare, some nice low mid energy over there. So that's nice. So now we're going to use the close mics to just kind of fill in that sound a little bit. So I'm just going to take these snare channels all the way down, and then we'll just kind of add them in. So let's start with the top with the overheads and rooms. Okay, again, we just flip the polarity on the snare with the overheads and rooms on, and I found that if I flip the snare out of phase, it sounds better. We get more low end. So that's good. So we're going to leave this with the snare polarity flipped. So that's the top mic. We're just getting a little bit more, I don't know, like low mids. So now the bottom snare, by itself, doesn't really sound that great. But it does add a nice amount of high end. So that's what we're going to use it for. We're just going to use it to just get a little bit of high end. I don't really care about the snare wire sound, but let's see if we can get a little nice high end and crack out of it. Okay, so I'm going to leave it somewhere around here. So I'm just kind of favoring the overhead sound, the room sound, and just bringing in these close mics in a little bit. I'm not really having them up full blast. So let's talk a little bit about the processing on the close mics. So we'll start with the top. Yeah, just a little high boost here, just to get a little bit more crack and excitement out of the snare. And let's see. So now we could do some subtractive EQ. I've done some where I've heard some excessive ringing on the snare, which is good and helps it cut. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the analyzer on so we could see where that boost is. I've already done this, but I'll show you what it sounds like. So I'm not completely eradicating the ring. I'm just taming it a little bit, just so it fits a little bit better in the mix. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do for this top snare, and this bottom snare I just have gated just so it doesn't rattle every time the toms are hit. Just to clean it up a little bit. Okay, so we're going to go back to the full mix now, and I'll show you what I do for snare processing. Besides that little EQ move, I like to process the snare in parallel. So I like to do my snare compression on a separate track and a little extra saturation. So what we're going to do is I have this little bus called Magic Bus that does all my snare processing. So I just made a post fader send. So it's only going to send the amount that I have the fader up to this bus. And I have a little console emulation, a little saturation, which we might crank. So let's see what it sounds like. I'm going to take the compression off for now. Yeah, it sounds kind of cool if you blow it up a little bit. And we could go a lot more, but I think this is good. So now let's try a little compression. I have a kind of a medium attack and a medium release. I want to have, a fairly nice sustain. And on the attack, I want to keep it medium because I want the transient of the snare to come through uncompressed so we can get a nice pop out of it. But I also want to control the dynamics where if I hit a little softer or hit a little louder, or a drummer hits a little softer, a little louder, we can balance out the levels without having to do crazy automation. So we're going to keep it at a medium attack. So we still have some control, but we still have a little bit of extra pop. So let's see what it sounds like. Yeah, so this way we get a little bit of compression, a little bit of energy and excitement from the compressor without it being over the top. So another thing that I could do is, let's say for this kind of like a punk beat, I don't know what you'd call it. Let's try adding just a little bit of verb. So it just kind of helps with the length of the snare, and it makes it a little bit larger than life. So I think I'm going to keep it like this. So let's hear it in the mix with our little bit of changes that we've done and see what it sounds like. So that's it. I hope that helps. Have a little fun with your snare drum. And remember, the main thing is get the snare drum sounding great in the room. That's the secret. Take it easy.